night for Pottsville. Moving along, our non-league game. This will be the one I'll be at. I'll be covering this game with Coach Tom Bonner for WLSH.com. Correct, Coop?
WMGH.
I'm sorry, WMGH.com. Thank you. So WMGH.com. We will be at Williams Valley covering the Marion Colts heading up to Williams Valley. And, it's a bit of a trip, so that's always a bit worrisome the start of the year. But you got to think with Marion, what they have coming back. And, Williams Valley suffered some tough losses with graduation and even with injury in the preseason. So I kind of don't see a whole lot of difficulty there for Marion.
No, I agree. Should be a good opener for Marion to do everything they want to do. Big numbers out of KJ Snare, I'm expecting. Kaczynski will put up some good numbers himself. But, Williams Valley just kind of decimated right now. Not only graduation, but some key injuries. So they got to get healthy.
Yeah, I covered this game last year, and Williams Valley's issue was they could not block Marion at all when they blitzed. I mean, they just had a free run at quarterback Nick Radocic, which is actually a very talented player for Williams Valley. But with the loss of Garrett Zimmerman and Ryan Harris, their two best defenders, it's just going to be there's too many weapons out there for them to deal with. And it's going to be a tough one for Williams Valley, but, they're always a tough bunch. I wouldn't be surprised to see them, get it together and make the district playoffs, be up there in the Tri-Valley League, because they just play well in that league. And, Marion's just a very, very talented team this year. We all believe that. So, like I said, shaping up to be a tough test for Marion, but some things happen, and I think that they roll in this one.
Speaking of tough tests, Shenandoah blowing up the buses, heading to Blue Mountain opening week. This is one of those games where obviously you have a big discrepancy in the depth of the numbers, and that's something that's kind of hurt Shenandoah in the past couple of years, especially when going up against these bigger schools. So Shenandoah, I feel they need some of these playmakers to emerge.
Yeah.
Santana, we see him on the basketball court. We see him as a receiver. Santana last year, he averaged 23 yards a catch. No touchdowns, though.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not a knock on him. That's impressive. That's an impressive yards per catch. I'm just saying, as a whole, with the offense, they just couldn't seem to punch it in when they need to. They at times move the ball. McCole would throw up a bunch of yards. Santana has potential. They got some other guys that they think could be some playmakers. Can they get the ball in the end zone to stay in this game?
And we were talking earlier off camera, Pat, about teams worrying about their depth. Blue Mountain worrying about their depth. You don't talk to the Shenandoah coaching staff about that.
Yeah.
There's going to be 50-something kids on one side and 20-something on the other side. So a numbers game alone, it's a really tough matchup for Shenandoah, a small school like that, trying to play the big horses right out of the gate. But they'll get an idea where they're at, and like you said, quarterback McCall's as tough as they come, not only physically but mentally, and he'll hang in there the whole game and he'll make plays. And hopefully Shenandoah can go to Blue Mountain and put a decent show on, but a tough matchup right out of the gate.
Yeah, I agree. You just want to have you want to try to maybe get a few big plays during the game, some few positive, maybe a couple scores, a couple good drives, and the key is to get everyone out of that game healthy, so you can, when you only have 24, 25 kids in the squad, you got to try to come at it as hard as it is to come out of every game healthy, so you can try and get any momentum you get carried into that next game.
Last year, this is one of the games I actually covered, was the Blue Mountain Eastern Conference Championship game. So I got to see their quarterback, Mason Freed, who made the start, filling in for Greenwald, who was hurt. Greenwald, he was a guy that we mentioned his name, every week last year. And Mason Freed did a great job of managing the game. So now, he's in control. And Blue Mountain, they have Chelly's coming back in the backfield, even though they lost Horn and Dakota Roberts and some of those other players. But it looks like they have guys ready to step right in when you're looking at these guys. And you got to think that they're going to be very tough again. Shenandoah, as we said, needs playmakers to emerge. Kyle Gears, a kid who is, I mentioned track before, won the hurdles for District 11 AA in track, coming out, going to play some wide receiver for Shenandoah. Curious to see if he could bring some of his explosiveness to the football field and give Shenandoah another weapon. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and, who emerges for both teams opening out when we see a lot of new faces on the field for both of those teams. So that's Shenandoah at Blue Mountain. Moving along, Minersville Thorpe. Boy, this one's interesting. It's interesting. At first glance, Minersville Thorpe, you think, okay, Thorpe at home, but you back up a little bit, I don't know.
Well, we said this last year. Brad reminded us that we were way off. That Jim Thorpe came out and pounded them, so he's shaking his head no again.
Yeah, you're right. For
I
those
agree.
for those of you just joining us, last year we said the exact same thing about this game, and Brad here told us that we were nuts, and Thorpe was going to romp, and he was correct. But I'm sticking to this. I do think it's going to be a game. I think that Minersville has a very good shot to go into Jim Thorpe and compete.
Yeah, I have on my sheet here. I put the scores down because I like doing that, and I like to look back and see what the scores really were. And I have Jim.
Right.
I have Jim Thorpe. I have Jim Thorpe over Minersville 28-20. So it's closer than I
Okay.
So it's not too bad.
That was
it's
last
not.
year's score.
No,
Or this.
it was bad.
No, that's what you're.
28-20 for this year.
No,
That's your prediction.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
my
I got
prediction.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just write scores down
That's
for
fine.
fun for myself.
Yeah.
But I have right here first line. I think Miners will be the most improved team in the NFL this season. But there's one thing about Jim Thorpe at home. They don't really ever lose that much at home. They don't. I mean, since Coach Rosenberger's been there, I think this is his 17th, maybe 18th year at Jim Thorpe. They do not lose that much at home, and he always has his guys ready to play. And you know that they're ready for Keandre Taylor. But I think that like I said, he adds another dynamic to Minersville that they haven't had in a long time.
I agree.
And you have to prepare for that now. It's not just pound and ground with the Miners this year. And Pat Mason knows that. And to have a guy like Pat Mason as your coach, even when you're in the doldrums like this, you got to feel lucky because you know it's not going to last very long.
Yeah,
But,
Coach Mason does a
Oh.
fantastic job year in and year out with Minersville every year.
But I agree. I think it's going to be a tough test for Jim Thorpe. But I just think at the end of the day that Jim Thorpe's athleticism will trump Minersville's, and they'll be able to make the plays to win the game, just like they did last year. They had a couple close games last year, but Jim Thorpe made the plays to win, and I think they'll do that again on Friday night.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jim Thorpe, should and can win and probably will win this game. But I really think this is going to be a good one. And if there is one out there that somebody might be able to go on the road and steal this week, I would say this might be the one because the kids from Minersville are going to get on the bus thinking that they can go and win.
Yeah,
And that's a big edge. And with this new look offense now, I mean, you don't take an athlete like McBreen and put him on the outside if you're not going to use them. So
Yeah.
I'm expecting, we're going to see the ball put in the air a little bit. Jim Thorpe's going to have to cover well. Now they do have a lot of great skill guys there. We talked about their offensive line, so who wins the battle up front. But
Yeah.
I think this is might be the most intriguing Week 1 matchup that we have as far as one that can go either way. But it should be a real good ball game.
I agree. All right, moving on. Monte Area at Lehighton. So Monte Area is a team that we said they have some weapons coming back, as does Lehighton, and Lehighton's one of the consensus teams throughout the league to do very well and contend for a league championship. Monte not quite in that group. Can Monte go to Lehighton opening week? Last year they kind of got down early and it really snowballed on them. But the next couple weeks, Monte proved that wasn't really the team that they were. But it's tough going on the road. It's a tough opening night matchup. So this is one that could be very interesting.
Yeah, I called this game last year, like you said, Pat. I mean, they just came out and just put the ball on the ground and threw interceptions. And I think there was a pick six. There might have been a return somewhere in there for a touchdown. But before people even got comfortable in their seats, it was 21, 28, nothing. And now the second half, Monterey played really well, and we did say that. We said, hey, these kids are tough, and they bounced back. And but Lehighton has a real good football team open the season at home. Tough matchup for Monterey. So I think Lehighton should take care of business. But again, you're going to see a very good Monterey team, and Mason Ryan's obviously going to make some plays. So it should be a close game.
Yeah, I think that when you're looking at Lehighton, I agree with everyone. I think they're a great team. They're well coached, and they have a great year. But I think people are kind of underrating how much this team lost from last year. They lost Tom Rizika, who I believe was the heart and soul of the team. If you saw that kid, he was all over the place.
He was my guy.
Tyler Crum was one of the best playmakers in the league. You could just throw the ball to him. I mean, that one catch he made at Marion last year was fantastic. Me and Coop and Coach John Searfoss were hoping it wasn't going to rain outside there with all the equipment around us. But those guys are gone now, so Can and Wyatt are really going to have to really step their game up, and those guys are used to it. That's no big deal. And we're going to be talking about other Lehighton guys we're not talking about now that are going to show up for them and do well. But a team like Mono, I think Mono can maybe show some of those weaknesses early on because they have so many good playmakers.
Sure.
But we'll see what kind of linebacker Wyatt Clemens is because he's going to have a lot of opportunities to go sideline to sideline against this offense. Mm-hmm. And if he kind of neutralizes that, we know he's the real deal, even more than he's shown. So I expect Lehighton to win. and I expect them to win pretty handily. I don't think it's going to be a very close game, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a 2-touchdown game, but we'll also see what Monterey's made of. I think it's our second most intriguing matchup besides the Jim Thorpe Minersville game.
I'm curious to see how it goes down in the trenches. Lehighton lost some guys there.
Yeah.
Haberman, Kunik.
Yeah.
They lost some. They lost some
2 All-Stars from last year.
Yeah, they lost some real quality linemen. So as did Monterey.
Yeah.
But I think a big part of this game is going to come down to those trenches, and can Monterey line up with them, go toe to toe with them in the trenches, and slow down Clemens. You're not gonna stop them. Can they slow them down? Mm-hmm. And on the other end, can they move the ball? Can they run the ball against Lehighton's defense? So I think that's going to determine whether or not they're able to stay in this game. So I kind of agree. I think Lehighton's obviously the favorite in this one, but again, like we said, a team like Monterey, teams like Minersville, hey, that's why they play the games. This is what we want to see opening night because somebody's going to surprise us.
Sure. Yeah.
Someone's going to surprise us. Okay, brings us to our next game. Again, a possible surprise here: PV at Haven. PV obviously struggled last year. With that being said, played a lot of young kids, and they're all back.
Yep.
Haven, didn't perform the expectations. Lost Casella, lost Fink. However, you look at what they have on their line. I mean, I think their smallest lineman is 265.
Yeah.
Most teams that could be their biggest line.
Yeah.
So, what do we make of this game?
Well, like you said, Schuylkill Haven's going to play Schuylkill Haven football. They're going to pound you, one of those 10, 11 play drives. That's what they're going to want to do. Can Panther Valley get some stops along the way, maybe force a turnover, force some punts, and then Panther Valley this year has to find an identity on offense. They moved some guys around last year, took wide receiver Dan Gilberry, Jr., moved him to quarterback this year, and he's keeping his number 84, though, by the way. He's going to be number 84 nice. Behind center. I love it. So, new quarterback again in Panther Valley. Last year, 3 different guys played the quarterback position. They're all back this year, but none of them playing quarterback. So we have Gilberry moved from wide receiver to quarterback. Hudicka from quarterback to wide receiver. Capobianco took some snaps last year. He's going to play mainly a tailback. And then we said we have big Tristan Blasco on the outside. So I'm hoping that Panther Valley can find something that works offensively and just keep building on it, not have to make all those in-season changes like they had to do last year, like Coach Davis was forced to do. So that's what I'm looking at for this game. Win or lose, I think Panther Valley could play well here and keep it a game. But I'm just looking, offensively, can they put some numbers up? Because last year they really, really struggled.
Yeah, I think they have to prove not only to themselves but to other teams that they can score before before they can go to a place like Rotary Field and get a W.
Right.
I mean, their numbers last year on offense were 7.7 points a game. I mean, that's about as bad as it's going to get. You're only averaging a touchdown a game. So I think they need to come out and do a lot better. The second thing that I talked to Coach Matt Davis about was he is excited about their offensive line.
Yes.
He said that's their strongest unit right now. They're communicating great, and they've looked great in both scrimmages.
Played together for a few years.
You've got a kid named Luke Hunsaker who said is the leader of that unit. Great kid. So you gotta really be positive about that if you're a Panther Valley fan or a coach, because I mean that's the main thing you need all year long is those guys up front to push for it. And on defense, you got Anthony Vavrick went back, leading tackler at times, he was All-Star last year, and Kyle Emmer in middle linebacker, who I think is a very, very aggressive guy and can do a lot of things for them. So they definitely have a lot of room to improve. I think they will improve, but until, like Coop said, until that offense shows us that they can do something, that's going to be the ticket for them this year.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to keep this rolling right along. Haven, Danny Lozada moved to quarterback last year, so he's coming back. He's experienced. Going to be interesting to see who takes over that running back role for Casella. Right now, it looks like they got a little bit of a committee going on. So we'll see with Kirshner, Brown, Preston Gehring. We'll see how that plays out. But anytime you go to Rotary Field, that's going to be a tough game. So that's a matchup that we feel like is really going to tell us a lot about both of these teams.
Yeah.
Which leads us to our game of the week. Game of the week. We got our defending league champs, North Schuylkill, heading on the road, going to Tamaqua. Tamaqua, a team who year in and year out puts together a solid front offensively and defensively. Puts together a tough, gritty team. Puts themselves in positions to stay in games. Can they compete with North Schuylkill week 1?
I think they can for a time. I think eventually North Schuylkill's just going to explode. There's so many big plays. It's hard to. You may play great on first and second down. They have a 3rd and 15, and the next play you're behind 6-0. So, It's tough to keep them off the board, obviously, and Tamaka's going to have to control the clock, going to have to control the time of possession, and do all those things. Run the ball well with Moyer, but all said and done, a tough matchup, and probably one that North Schuylkill should win in week 1.
Yeah, I think North Schuylkill is going to. I think North Schuylkill is going to probably. I want to give Tamako a chance, but it's just.
It's tough to do.
I just can't.
And it's nothing against Tamako. It's because of the strength of North Schuylkill.
Yeah, we'd be saying this no matter who North Schuylkill will be playing in week 1.
Yeah,
right.
and they're my sleeper, and I like Tamako this year. I really like that they have like 3 or 4 offensive linemen back. Now you lose the Skripko brothers and Nathan Bastanzi, who was an all-star last year, but one of the Skripkos played tight end, which is basically a blocker most of the time anyways in Tamako's offense. I think the key for them is, can they make a few passes to keep defense honest, because they were too one-dimensional last year.
Sure.
I think they had a passing game, they could have really made some noise. If they have a passing game this year, who knows what that Tamako game could be like, but the North Schuylkill game could be like. But my opinion is, I think North Schuylkill's amped up, like we were talking about. These kids are ready to roll. This is the last run.
Yep.
So they have a lot of energy pent up, and unfortunately Tamako was that first victim there week 1.
Yep. Totally agree.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
That's that. That's week 1. That's a wrap. That's our first show for 2015 TNT Coleridge Football's Thursday Night Tailgate. Before we go, one quick shout out. Brian Kennedy, class of 1994, Marion Catholic, quarterback, 3-year starter, ended up going to the Naval Academy, who is currently coaching at Pine Ridge out by Pittsburgh. He's coaching the receivers out there, and I want to give a shout out to Brian. He's one of our biggest fans, watches us every week, which is awesome. We're starting to get a lot of feedback, and we're getting guys that have been out of school, went to one of these Coleridge schools, and every week they might not be in the area, but they're tuning in. So Brian, thanks a lot for tuning in. Love you, bud. All right, so week 1, that's a wrap. We'll see you guys next week.
Don't forget to tweet at us either.
Good.
Yes.
Sorry, I wrapped that up. She's a meeting at 7:30. I didn't realize it was that late.
No problem.